Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Lesky, and today is a big day. I finally got access to FIFA 23. I pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition of the game, so I got access to it a few days early, and I can finally make FIFA 23 content for you guys. And what I usually do for the first video of a new FIFA is I go into the settings and make a best custom settings FIFA video for y'all. The best settings, in my opinion, what I'm going to be using for the start of the year. And a lot of y'all might find some of the settings very helpful. So let's get started and dive straight into these FIFA 23 settings. After clicking the customize button on the home page, it'll take you to this screen, and then we're going to click settings, and then we're going to go to customize controls. We'll also look at the game settings where we can change the visual and the audio settings and a bunch of other stuff. But we're going to take a look at the controller settings first, which is very important for FIFA. And the first thing we're going to have changed is competitive master switch. We're going to turn it on. I think originally it is off. This is always going to be on, even if you have the setting off. For every single online match you get into, the competitive master switch will automatically be turned on. So you might as well have it on because it's always going to be on for online matches. And then the next setting after that is through pass assistance. And I believe they had a assisted setting on through pass assistance before last FIFA and in older FIFAs, but this year I believe they just took it away completely. It's only manual and semi. That's fine. I always would just run it on semi even when there was an assisted setting. I think semi is way better for through balls and even crosses too. You just have more control of where those through balls and passes are going. FIFA trainer, I'm going to take that off. You can have it on for the beginning if you want, if you're kind of new to FIFA. Time finishing, this is up to you. It's really preference. If you like to take the risk of doing time finishes, then you can have it on. I like doing it sometimes. It can be very helpful once you learn time finishing. So I'm going to have it on. If you don't use time finishing at all, you might as well take it off because sometimes it can hurt you. If you're like spamming B a lot for a shot, it can trigger the time finishing and you could like red time it and you could like shank a shot very badly. So if you're not going to use time finishing at all, just make sure you have it off. If you are going to use it, make sure you have it on. And if you have it on, make sure you actually try and use it. Otherwise, you should just have it off. Next player switch indicator. This is kind of preference. This is for when you're switching players in like a 1v1 game. I like it off. The little extra indicator on another player that I'm not controlling just confuses me. I know it like tells you what player you're going to switch to next, but I'm not a huge fan of it, and it really just annoys me and bothers me. So I always have that off. Pass block assistance, you're going to want that on. Auto switching, this is kind of preference also. I always like it on manual. I like to always switch manually myself between the players, but I know a lot of people just have it on like loose balls only or air balls only or something like that, but I always have it on manual. For auto switching move assistance, I would have this on low. I don't believe this setting matters if you have auto switching on manual because you're never going to auto switch, so then this will never kick in. But if you do have some sort of auto switching on, I would suggest having it on low. This will keep your player you auto switch to moving in the current direction for a period of time. So low, it'll just be a short period of time. High, it'll be a long period of time, which you do not want. And then you can put it on none, which is very risky because when you auto switch to a player and then you have like your left stick pointed a certain direction, it could move that player immediately out of position and in the wrong direction. So that could be very risky, and why I would suggest having it on low if you do have some sort of auto switching on. Next is clearance assistance. You are going to want this on directional. I believe this was a new setting last year. They used to just always have classic. Then they added directional to give you more control over your clearances, which can be very helpful. So definitely directional for clearance assistance. Player lock I have on. I'll use it sometimes, so I have that on. Icon switching I don't use, so I'd take that off. Right stick switching, I believe this is a new setting, the adaptive setting they added. Holding right stick for longer will switch to more distance players as soon as you release it. Usually I'm just rocking with the classic, but I think I'm going to try adaptive just to try out the holding the right stick, see if it's any somewhat useful. Otherwise, I'll probably just switch back to classic if I don't like adaptive. Right stick switching reference, I've always had it on player relative. I know some people might like ball relative. It's really up to you. If you switch to ball relative and you're used to player relative, it will take a while to get used to, but it might be better for you. I don't know. I have always used player relative for every single FIFA. The next one is ground pass assistance, and you're going to want this on assisted. Same with a shot assistance, and then cross assistance, you're actually going to want this on semi. Similar to through balls, I like having them on semi. You just have more control of the placement and the power of the cross rather than assisted. So I would suggest trying semi crossing and through balls. If you have never tried it out, you'll have a lot more control, and I think your passing will actually be better once you get used to it. It's not a huge difference compared to assisted, but you just have a little bit more control of where you want those passes to go. So that's why I have cross on semi. Lob pass, I have assisted, and then lob through pass, I have semi. So ground through pass, I have semi, and then lob through pass, I have semi, and I'm just a huge fan of that. If you want, you can go as, actually, they don't even have an assisted setting on lob through pass. They do on cross, but they don't even have that on through pass. They don't want assisted through passes, I'm guessing, so you're always going to want that on semi. Save assistance, I think if you are playing like a pro club's goalie or something, I think majority of keepers have it on semi. So if you are a keeper, I think you do want that on semi. Analog sprint, I have this on. This will basically turn your right trigger into a gas pedal. If you have it off, immediately when you click down on the right trigger, your guy will go into a full sprint. But when you have it on, it'll turn into kind of like a gas pedal effect. When you barely push down on the trigger, your guy will start picking up speed, and the more you push down on the trigger, your guy will get faster and faster, and once you have it fully pressed down, your guy will be at full sprint speed. So I like having analog sprint for more control of how fast my guy is going. Good for dribbling too, and not taking a massive touch like when you try and sprint and then your guy just takes a huge touch out in front of you. I do think analog sprint on is helpful for your gameplay in certain situations like that. Pass receiver lock, I believe, is the last setting, and I always have this on late. This is helpful for when you have the ball and you see like one of your teammates, say your striker, kind of open, and you want to play a ball in between like two defenders to get the ball to him, and you're making the pass, your guy is doing the animation, about to make the pass, but you notice that that pass isn't going to be on anymore, it's not going to work, it's going to get intercepted by the defender, so you want to make a last second change in the direction of your pass. So if you have pass receiver lock on late, you can do that. It'll allow you to change your pass at the very last second before your guy actually touches the ball. So you just point your left stick in a different direction to somebody else on your team, and it will change the pass. But if you have the setting on animation start or power up, it will not do that. The pass receiver lock will be a lot earlier than compared to if you had it on late. So I would suggest having pass receiver lock on late, and I believe that is the last setting for the controller settings in FIFA 23. That's what I'm going to be using. Let's go to the game settings now. And I almost forgot to mention, but for those of y'all that are curious, I use an Xbox Elite controller with two paddles on the back that are programmed to the bumpers, LB and RB. You use the bumpers a lot in FIFA for certain types of passes, skills, shots, and I find it very helpful. So if y'all are interested, I can make a separate video going into my FIFA controller, like my actual Elite controller settings, the setup that I have, and everything like that. I usually would show that at the end of my FIFA settings video, but for this video, I'm not going to do that. We're just solely just going to show the FIFA settings, and then I can make a separate video showing you guys my setup on my Elite controller if y'all are interested. So let me know in the comments if y'all want to see that video. But let's dive straight into the game settings now. I don't believe there's much to change here, and a lot of it may be preference. So we're not going to be changing all these settings, just some of the important ones. And I don't think you're going to want to change anything under match, or at least I didn't. That's really up to you. Camera, I always use it on co-op. This is what I used all of last year. So I changed single player, multiplayer, lock to player camera, and pro clubs camera on co-op. And then be a keeper cameras on pro, because I think that's best for when you're playing keeper. So I have it on co-op, and then the camera settings I put to custom. You can have it on default, but I put them to custom because you can change the camera height and zoom even more. So what I always have is the camera height on 5 and then the camera zoom on 0. So it's zoomed out as much as possible. You can see a good amount of the field, and then the camera height is lowered a bit. And that's really all you need to change for the camera settings. This doesn't matter. I believe that's only important for when you have like the pro camera setting on. Power shot zoom, that is the new power shot. If some of y'all haven't seen what that looks like, you press LB and RB, I believe, and it does like a slower animation power shot, but there's also like a zoom in the camera as you're doing the power shot, and it can be annoying. It like blocks off some of the goal. You can't see the goalie depending on where you take the power shot. So you don't want the power shot zoom to be on, or at least I'm not going to have it on. I'll have it off, and I think a good amount of other people are going to be using power shot zoom off as well. So make sure you have that off if you want. On to visual now. Let's go to the top. For the HUD, I go player name and indicator. The indicator will still be there at the bottom left and right, showing your stamina and then the name of your player. But then the player name will also pop up above whoever has the ball. It'll show their actual name. I like this for like ultimate team or like kickoff, knowing who has the ball. And then also it's good for like pro clubs or something. If someone else on the other team has the ball, it'll show the name of their player rather than their gamer tag, which I prefer. And then player indicator, you're going to want on player name rather than player number. Player indicator size, I have that on default. You can change that if you want. Same with the player indicator fade. Player base difficulty indicator enables the player base difficulty indicator, requires the player base difficulty to be switched on in match settings. I don't really know what that is. I just have that on. Hold to skip, I have that off. Time/score display on. Score clock drop down on. Radar, I always keep on 2D. You can put it on 3D. Radar color, I keep the same. You can go into that and change that if you like. A lot of this, again, is preference, blah, blah, blah. Nothing really here. I do turn off scrolling lineups at the start of the game. It can block some of your screen and can be annoying, so I always turn that off. Connection monitoring, you can have that on. Input overlay, this is the controller at the top right of your screen. I like having that for like content and videos and stuff like that, so you can see what I'm doing on my controller. So that's it for camera and visual, and I don't believe we have much else. Nothing here on rules. Audio, up to you. You can turn the music off, turn it down, turn the commentators down. Nothing much here. Anything else? Not really. Accessibility. Player indicator size, I just have that on default. And yeah, I believe that's it for these game settings in FIFA 23. So that's going to wrap it up for my first FIFA 23 video on my YouTube channel. Nothing special, just a quick settings video. But I'm sure a lot of you guys will find this helpful and appreciate it. So thank you for all y'all that are still here watching this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you aren't already. Hit that like button on this video. That'll help me a lot. And I am ready to grind FIFA 23 and get a bunch of content out for you guys on the channel. Pro clubs, Volta, settings videos, tips, builds, of course, skill moves tutorials, a bunch of different stuff will be coming to the channel. So stay tuned, and y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace out.